Yeah, it's pretty brutal. It sucked. I tried to play through a lot of things, and this is just something that I couldn't play through, obviously, for obvious reasons. So it really sucks. I hate that my season ended early and it ended the way it did.
How's the healing going?
Good, I think. I got to check up in a few weeks to make sure everything is on pace still. But it's kind of just like up in the air exactly on the end date of when I can really get back into the full swing of things. But I'll know a lot more in 3 weeks.
Kind of bittersweet at all to see, these young guys coming up, playing well, hope for the future, and you having to watch from the sidelines, kind of.
Yeah, I think watching from the sidelines is always bittersweet. It's there's a lot of things that happen while you're watching that you want to be a part of, and you're missing out on it. I miss out on Marty and Riggs' last game. I miss out on a lot of things like that. So those moments as well are super important to me. It's not just the youth movement that's happening, but it's definitely important for the group. Gives them opportunity, gives them chances to show themselves, and myself obviously going down with injury. Marty and Rig not playing the last couple games. It gives guys chances to show themselves. So it's great for them in that aspect. But yeah, it really sucks sitting on the sidelines and watching.
What is your rehab going to entail for your?
Shouldn't be anything too extensive. It will just be range of motion once I get the cast off to get things moving the way they should be moving.
When do you get the cast off?
That's hopefully in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you, from your perspective, watching, what did you, as some of these young kids came up, what did you notice about kind of like some of these kids as they were added to the roster? Like, what stood out from you watching?
Any of them in particular? Like, you want to say like the guys that came up from college, or the guys that came from Rockford?
You can take it any way you want. I mean, if there's one player that stood out to you particularly, or
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard a lot of people talk about the influx of speed, basically in general. Like,
Yeah.
what stood out to you? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, speed is definitely the top one. Like, Morsey is really fast. He uses his speed well. Slag's very fast, and Frank has been playing really well as of late, especially, and using his speed to his advantage. And then, just in general terms, I see a lot of confidence in the young kids, whether that's good or bad, in different ways of looking at it. To be able to come into the league and feel super confident and know you can have an impact and you can make a difference is a really hard thing to get your head around at first. So for the kids that are coming in, they're feeling good about themselves, and I hope that that's because we're creating a culture and a place that they feel confident and comfortable to come into. We don't want them to feel undervalued or feel like they're less than any of us just because we've been here for a while. This is, quite frankly, a team with open spots everywhere. Not one of us has a solid spot. So to come in, you have to come in and kind of take your job, make it happen, because this team is looking for guys to do that, and it's on them at this point because they are the guys that are going to take this team forward, that they got to take it. And their confidence that they come in with gives me the hope and the inspiration that that is what they want to do and they're going to do.
You guys finished in the standings the same place as last year, but with that youth, does it feel different at this time of year than it did a season ago?
No. Finishing in this position never feels good, never feels better any year, because the result is the same. It doesn't matter what players you put on the ice year after year. If you're getting that same result, it doesn't matter. Do I feel like there is hope? Maybe, but camp can roll around, and all the guys that came in that played with a ton of adrenaline, they played with a ton of excitement. Maybe that kind of dissipates a little bit, and we're not as forward as we're not moving as far forward as I might think we would in camp, just based on what I saw at the end of this season. You'd think that will happen, but it's not necessarily the truth. But there are good players. I never got to see Renzel play before. I never got to see Moore play before. I didn't get to see all that. So having an eye for it now, I get a sense of who the players are and what they're going to bring to the group, and that gives me a little bit more direction as to where things are heading.
There's been a lot of talk, even going back to this time last season or last year, about identity. of the team, and the team has gone through some changes. Luke Richardson, Seth Jones, Taylor Hall, others. What do you think about those changes in the identity as it stands now?
Yeah. Identity is something that needs to be ironed out as a collective. Management, coaching staff, and players all need to be on the same page as to what the identity of a team is going to be. And part of that has to do with the players that you have. So with certain players, you can create certain identities as a team. So with this new youth movement, with this new, not new, but with all the speed that they are bringing in and they're talking about and getting excited about, that's an identity right there, is to play fast, play tenacious. You know, it's much more typical for young players to play on their toes and be more aggressive in forechecks and try to go hound pucks more. So that creates a new identity that, you know, maybe you become the team that's just relentless on the forecheck and plays with a ton of pace, and you get the D jumping up in the rush like Anders started to push for when he moved into the coaching role that he got. So those things will all create the identity, and it just takes all three groups being on the same page, because if one of them is thinking something different, then there's going to be a deviation somewhere, and it's hard to get everybody back onto the same page when one of the three kind of trickles away.
Where do you see
Last question for Jason.
or where do you see kind of your role moving forward in part of this? Obviously, you have another year under contract and everything, but have you kind of envisioned what part you'd like to play in this process?
In the long-term process, I haven't really given it any thought. You know, next year I imagine that I'll continue in the same position that I like to fill. You know, I want to take on those matchups. I want to be a third line, two-way, shutdown centerman that does penalty kill and the hard jobs. So that's where I think it will stay for me, but I couldn't tell you if that's in the plans. I don't know what anybody's got cooking behind closed doors, so who knows, especially with 1 year remaining on a deal. You know, it's much more feasible that a management group decides to move you and go a different direction, so I just generally don't know.